When we're young, we have an amazing, positive outlook about how great life is going to be, but somewhere along the line, we forget to dream and end up settling. Join Up Dots features amazing people who refuse to give up and chose to go after their dreams. This is your blueprint for greatness. So here's your host, live from the back of his garden in the UK, David Ralph.
Hello there once more out there in internet land, and welcome to another episode of Join Up Dots. Episode 23 today, and we have got a guy who really has been an inspiration to me. And right from the very glimmer, the very first time I had this thought of doing this show, he was somebody who was, quite frankly, ahead of the curve. He was already doing what I wanted to do, so he has been a huge inspiration to me. So let me introduce you to him. Today's guest was perhaps not the most obvious person to get behind the mic and create an amazing content-producing production line. But he's achieved it after living a totally different life for many, many years. An electrician and entrepreneur by trade, he spent his time with pliers and fuses, creating a world of light and power around his home state of Washington. But behind his skilled hands, a light burned brightly, a light that shone brightly on a dream to become a speaker and a writer. But like many dreams, they remained simmering until after a routine health check, he was given life-shattering news. He found out he had cancer and knew then that he had to take action. And boy, did he take action. Grabbing a mic, a pen and a laptop, he set to work not only to achieve his own goals, but to inspire others to achieve their goals too. And with his podcast, Doubt the Doubts, being published now over 180 times, he has certainly achieved his aim. So let me bring to you someone who deserves to be heard by the biggest audience possible, the host of Doubt the Doubts, Mr. Paul Blais. How are you today, sir?
David, I tell you what, if you could just hang out with me and tell that little intro on a regular basis, I would always be great.
I tell you what, I can get that tattooed on your backside for you.
That would be perfect. I mean, it just was, I had, first off, I am so blown away and honored, David, that you would point to me as one of those people that that inspired you to do what you're doing. That is such a huge inspiration to me myself. You know, one of the mottos of Doubt the Doubts is always to encourage people to say, I can do it. And to hear that you are doing what your dream is just does nothing but thrill me to death. I'm just so excited about that. So thank you for your kind words.
It's absolutely true, sir. And I imagine you must get emails saying those same things or voicemails constantly, because after 180 shows, you've really produced content that is global. Did you get a lot of emails like that?
You know, I get some emails. I think that the amount of people that actually sit down and write the percentage is pretty small. But I do get emails on a regular basis telling me what people are thinking and how the show has made an impact. And really, when it comes down to it, David, it really has far less to do with me as it does to do with the guests that come on the show, which I'm sure you're finding that same thing for yourself, is that the people who come on your show, that come on to mine specifically, Doubt the Doubts, they are absolutely amazing and astounding. And to hear their stories and their journeys, it's so inspirational. So I'm just the knucklehead who asks the questions. You know, I'm really not that impressive of a person. It's these amazing people. It's kind of like the comparison of a bottle of wine. You know, the bottle is nothing more than the conduit or the carrying vessel to get it from the vineyard to the glass. And nobody praises the bottle. It's always the stuff inside that matters. And that's what the guests are. They're the stuff inside, and I'm just the bottle with the label on it. Other than that, it's really those amazing people that make Doubt the Doubts a very good show.
So taking you back to the beginning, before you launched, and I'm very interested in the journey leading up to the launch, but before you launched, when you were starting to get the idea together, one of the problems that I had mentally was the fact that there was over 15,000, 200,000, whatever shows out there. And you think, oh, I'm going to come out with a show. This is going to be good. But then you think, who's going to listen? No one's going to listen. Everyone has got their own audience already. I've got no chance. How did you overcome that kind of doubt the doubts, I suppose, that little voice in the back of your head that says that you could bring something different to the ball game?
Oh, that's a great question, David. First off, I never believed that no one would listen. I knew my mom would listen. So that was one thing. It is a big deal to kind of put yourself out there. It's a little scary. Somebody described, I've done tons of public speaking gigs, and someone has described public speaking as getting naked in front of an audience, knowing that you're going to have to do it again later. And putting yourself out in a podcast form, like what you are doing, like what I do, it is intimidating. Because for one, you're putting your thoughts out there, your dreams, your idea. There's no other gatekeeper to stop you and say, hey, this is not a good idea, stop. So it's really up to you. And so it's a bit frightening. Now, I also am a bit of an optimist, where I tend to think that I can do anything that I want to put my mind to. So that's not to say that I've been successful with everything that I put my hand to, but I always have this optimism. And some people may call me a dreamer. Some people may call me foolish, but I've gone ahead and just whenever I've had a dream that I wanted to do, and I've just kind of gone for it. So I did have much higher expectations when I started, thinking that if I just had great guests, which I did have, and I thought that if I could put together a show that is clean and dressed up, I just thought that the sky was the limit. And so I didn't have a lot of fear of like who would listen to it. I just figured that I'm going to put it out there, and I figured that as long as I had great guests and I had a decent looking show, that I think it would take off, and it's proven to do that. Now, I was doing initially, David, I did do a daily show as you were doing yourself, and it was in December. I've had two transitions in the last couple of months. One in December around the 15th of the month, I changed from a daily show to a 3 times a week show. And part of that was because I wanted to focus more on writing, and I wasn't doing enough writing, especially with some of the campaigns I was doing. So I needed to hone in a little bit and diversify my thought or my efforts. And then in in March, just recently, I changed it one more time to where I'm now doing twice a week, because I'm specifically starting up a new podcast that will be not a companion to Doubt the Doubts, but it'll be kind of down a little bit different track. So I'll be doing 4 shows a week, but they'll be split between 2 different podcasts, and then also doing writing and the other things that I've got to keep going on, because I'm also running a business too, the Electric Connection. So I've got a lot on my plate.
So what's your favorite thing out of all of it? The podcast, the new podcast, the writing, the job? What's the thing that really gets your juices going?
Well, the business I've always dreamed of shutting down, the Electric Connection. I started it as a backup, not as an idea that I would do this for the rest of my life. I enjoy the Electric Connection more as an artist than I do as a technician, though I'm a great electrician, and I don't mean that arrogantly. I just know that I'm a good electrician because I see enough of the work of the other people around me. And there are other guys out there that are just as good as me and better than myself. But the thing that I have always shined in was design work. So I've fancied myself more of a lighting designer. So I'll go into a place and I will come up with a vision of how to make the house or the business more aesthetically pleasing through the textures of light. So I've always fancied myself more that way. So I'll come into some of the nicest houses in our area and truly have been able to design the lighting for some of the most beautiful houses in our county. And I've put my artistic eye towards that part of the business. And then I can go and I can wire and do all the electrical stuff, sound system, theater rooms, and the whole 9 yards. But having said that, that was supposed to be a backup business. So the creativity is the thing that I love the most. And so I think I love the podcasting the most. And the writing, I like having written more than I like writing. And I like being in the middle of writing more than I like starting to write. And I like so that's kind of that and that idea of liking having written is not new to me. Somebody else said that, and I love that idea that it is a painful process to write. It is painful to expose the soul and to put it out there. And when it doesn't resonate with anybody, which some of my writings have done, I feel a little, again, one of those naked moments, and it's a little bit frustrating. But there's other times where it just connects so deeply with somebody, and the response is so significant that I am blown away by the impact of it. And I just think, God, and that change of life that somebody experienced was because I took the time to tap something out on a keyboard. And that to me is astounding. So I love having written and seen the impact, but it's a painful process to do it well. Now the podcasting part, I love podcasting. I'm not a big fan of editing, but you have to do it. So I've streamlined that to where I can record a show and edit a show all within an hour and 15 minutes. I've got this little block of time that I can interview somebody, record it, edit it, file it, and start another recording, another interview in another at the start of another hour and 15-minute block, as I have my day blocked out that way for interviews. So I could do things very streamlined and easy that way. But I remember when I first started, bro, I was doing I would interview somebody, and I would spend about an hour and a half then editing the show. It was just brutal. And then I started coming up with systems and all that to be able to hone it down.
So it's brilliant that you've got so much going in your life at the moment. But as we said at the beginning, you have had a lot of health problems, quite major health problems. There's no belittling them in any shape or form. So it must be exhausting to have those issues still circulating, but having to do all the things that you're doing at the same time? Or is it those things that gives you energy that maybe you wouldn't have had?
Well, interesting question, David, to be honest. I like the way you worded that. So when I was first diagnosed with cancer, which was not this last February, but February 2013, February 11th to be specific, when I was diagnosed, it became the impetus to say, forget this. I can't wait for my dreams to come true, because I always had this idea of, one day. In fact, one of my guests, Shone Ogilvy, we'll just say Shone. My apologies to Shone for off the top of my head not being able to grab his name, but he had this great line that I thought it applied to me before I even knew this quote. But he said specifically, someday is not one of the days of the week. And that idea that, saying that you'll do something someday, but it's not one of the 7 days of the week. It's just this hypothetical idea out there of what may or may not happen. It just is a dream. It's a mirage. But I had plenty of those dreams. I've always wanted to be a writer and a speaker and an artist, and And to have that kind of out there in this la land just wasn't going to happen. So when I was diagnosed, I said, I've got to do it now. So that was a driving passion, saying I've got to do this now. And there's more details to that story that people can kind of search through my podcasts and they'll find it, especially my first episode. But having said that, as the disease wore on, which last year was a very brutal year for myself, David, that I was diagnosed, went in and had surgery, went through some pretty serious treatment, then I ended up having the cancer. They discovered it again. It had propagated. It went from being, though it was very large initially, it was the size of an orange inside my bladder. When they went back to look a second time in there, it had propagated, and there were like 14 new tumors, all of them small, the size of like the end of your pinky, but still nonetheless growing. And so, we dealt with that. Then I went through a round of treatment, and then before the next round of treatment, they went and looked again. My doctor went and looked again, found more cancer growing, and had surgery again, more treatment, and a very ominous idea that I was not going to be making it for much longer. And I was convinced that 2014 would be my last year. Paul? And I was when I was first diagnosed, I asked my doctor. Yeah, when I was first diagnosed, my doctor told me, I said, what if we can't get in front of this? And he said, well, then you've got 18 months. Well, that was when I was first diagnosed. But he said, but we're not going to worry about that. We're going to go and we're going to have surgery. We're going to take care of this. And I've had two doctors so far. One because the first one, I'm no longer with him, but that was because he moved from this city to another city. So I, by that very nature, I ended up having to get a new doctor. But he was more optimistic about it, said we can take care of this, and didn't give a whole lot of information. So we just kind of went with what he was telling us. So anyhow, as time went on, the getting in front of it became less and less likely because, 6 weeks after surgery, the cancer had returned with a vengeance. And then within 3 months after my last treatment, because then you go through 6 weeks, I had 7 weeks of treatment that particular time from a mistake, irrelevant to the story. But, at the end of that, then we scheduled a 6-week appointment to be looked at again, and the cancer had returned again. And my new doctor, he was very frank with me. He said, Paul, this is a very aggressive cancer, and the chances for recurrence, they are 80%, which to me I'm going back to the idea that that it's going to be hard to get in front of. It's just going to be plain old hard to get in front of. So when I started, then when it came back that second time, or I'm sorry, the third time, the idea that I was going to get in front of it was not quite as hopeful. And so, I went through that treatment, and then leading up to, with that echoing in the back of my mind, 80% chance of coming back. And then depending upon which studies you look into, it actually can be as high as 93%. Really, I was starting to lose hope. In fact, to be honest, David, this last March, we're recording now in April, but in March, before my last appointment for they scope the bladder, they take a camera and they look inside the bladder to see what's going on in there, because that's the only way they can tell if you have cancer or not. I was becoming pretty despondent through the process, and I was kind of losing hope. I was starting. I mean, for one, I've been off work for 9 months, and so all my medical bills were just horrific. All of my other bills are horrific. I mean, there's only so many. You just figure anybody who takes off a month off of work is rough, but take off 9 months. as a business owner, and you just have it's very rough. So anyhow, coming into that appointment, I went in, and before the doctor looked into my bladder, I asked him, I said, what do you think the chances are of being cancer free? And he said to me flat out, he said, Paul, this is an exact quote, I don't have a whole lot of hope for you. So knowing all of those things, that's why I was becoming discouraged with the process. And gratefully, when he did scope my bladder, there was no sign of cancer, which doesn't mean my chances have dropped significantly. It's still probably 80% chance of recurrence. But the idea that I can go through a checkup and to go through 3 months without cancer, that is a big hope. It's rejuvenated my ambition. It's rejuvenated my hope for tomorrow, and that I'll probably be seeing 2015. And if it does in 3 months, when I'm in the middle of treatment right now. I just started treatment again this last Thursday, maintenance treatment. I think that if it comes back, I might have a little bit more hope than I would have had if they looked into this last time and just seen another spot or 2 or 3 or 4 or 15 of it growing again. That I would have been. I feel like I've got more of an attitude. Well, stink. This stuff is not all powerful. Nor am I. Nor is my doctor. Nor is my medicine. But nor is cancer.
No, but I find this astonishing. I find this totally astonishing. You know, one of the things I'm trying to get across on these episodes, these daily episodes, is that people have got choices in their life to do not only great things. I'm not saying that everyone's going to be inspired and motivated, but they don't actually have to settle with what they've got. But so many people do. They go in every day, and yes. I've said this on numerous podcasts, and they just try to get through to Friday, exactly as you were saying, and then they can sit on the sofa, drink a couple of beers, watch a podcast or a show or whatever they're going to do, and then go through it again. And they're just not happy. And the nearest person to one of their rants about their boss, their job, whatever, will get it, and they just go through those motions. Now, you seem to be somebody very happy and content, and you had your business, and you was going around creating light systems and being, creative in your own field. But then you had this moment which really would have knocked most people off their feet. I think it would have knocked all people off their feet. And it was at that time that you, in my mind, took more action than at any time. Why? Why did you suddenly feel the need so much to do it then, where the logical thing would be saying, right, I'm going to go into a tough time here. I'm going to be using up all my energy. The therapy's going to be rough. It just seems like, why did you take on those extra things when the logical thing would be to sort of close down somewhat? It's a long question.
Oh, yeah. No, but it's brilliantly worded. I really appreciate the way you asked that, David. The thing is that my business requires my body to be healthy. I can't earn a living if my body's not functional. So my actions are one of necessity and optimism. Necessity is that I have to find a new avenue of income. That's just a reality, because my body may not be faithful for me to be able to do that. Well, here I am, even cancer. No evidence of cancer. We don't really call ourselves cancer free. Those of us who are in the world of cancer, we are not healed. We're not cancer free. We just have no evidence at this point, and so that to us is a new reality. It's a new way to live and a new way to think. So, knowing even having no evidence, I'm still going to go through treatment every 6 months, which will take me out of the income bracket for 2 months a year. Basically, every 6 months I'm off for a month. You save up for vacations, for a 1-week vacation. Most people do. And I'm taking 8 weeks of vacation unpaid. It's just unreasonable. I will never get out of this disastrous condition financially if I don't try to find a new way to do it. So that's the necessity. The optimism is also that I love people. I love making an impact, and I want to see people be encouraged and changed and challenged. And so Doubt the Doubt's whole point was to help encourage people, or is to help encourage people to say, I can do it. A new podcast I'm starting is more along my personal creative passion sides of dealing with ceramics. I'm starting a new show that I'm pretty sure is going to be called The Potter's Cast, which is for artists that are into ceramics, that are potters specifically. That's going to be a new show that's specifically going to be dealing with creativity and the business of creativity and the creativity of creativity. So I want to make an impact in this world as best I can, and instead of waiting for this day that in my case may literally never come if I don't take action, that I've got to do it now. Most people think, and I was one of those people, bro, that thought, I've got time, I'm going to do it later. In fact, before I started my Doubt the Doubts, I started getting into the social media online world and doing this type of stuff, I did have a 2-year plan. It was a 2-year plan to build a business up strong enough to sell it for about $1 million or so, specifically with my security monitoring part of the business. So I did have a plan. But it was always with the attitude of eventually. So that was like a 2-year plan. And who knows if I would have made that 2-year plan come true. The point was I was moving towards it, but it was still way out there. Why not make a decision to go after a dream today that you want to do, as opposed to saying, I'm going to do this when I retire, or when I paid off the cars, or when I paid off this or whatever. Okay, yeah, those are good goals. Pay off the car, pay off the house, get to retirement. Those are all good. But do something today that moves you towards that a little bit, so that when you do get the car paid off, you're ready to go. When you do get to retirement, you're ready to rock and roll, instead of waiting for those things. And that's what my problem was, is that I always had another horizon that was self-imposed as to why I would or wouldn't do something. And I realized that life is too temporary. Passenger is a great artist that I just love his music right now. And he's got this one line in there that says, package up your dreams until you've paid off your loans. And that's what we do most of the time. Most people do is they package their dreams up into little boxes and put them in the attic to pull down later on after they've lived their lives. And it's so sad. I just don't want to be that person that's got packaged dreams any longer. I want to live to the fullest before I get to the grave. So that's why I do that.
What is worse? What is worse, Paul? Being somebody who, in your mind, this is personal. This is a question directly to you, not for the audience, not for people who are, might be listening to this in 6 months, 2 years, 5 years time. But what is worse? Going for something and failing, or not going for something at all?
Well, was it Shakespeare that said? I think it was Shakespeare. It is better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all. There is a lot of heartbreak in failure. Nobody wants to fail. And the bigger the failure, the harder it is. But having said that, there is a journey on the way to that failure that is totally worth going through. Now, that's not to say that, failure can mean bankruptcy. Failure can mean the end of a relationship. I mean, that's how big some of our dreams can be, okay? And so I totally get that. But will fear of failure keep me from the love of living? That's the thing. We are not guaranteed failure. And we're not guaranteed success, but we are guaranteed now, and we are guaranteed that we have a dream. Those are things that we do have for sure. Taking steps towards those dreams, that is an endorphin rush all in and of itself. And if I flop, okay, I flop, but at least I flopped while I was doing something. So I think it's much worse to become mediocre. I think it's much worse to become mediocre.
At that point, I'm just going to play the theme of the show. Now, the theme of the show is Steve Jobs' speech, Join Up Dots, Connect the Dots. And I just want to play that because it really does emphasize what you were saying there, that you've just got to do stuff. You've got to move forward. You've got to try stuff. And you don't know where your life's going to be.
Right.
But if you don't do those steps, if you don't connect those dots, if you don't take that action, which might have seemed a bit strange at the time, that intuition was saying do it, but everyone else was saying no, you're never going to achieve, are you? And so I'm going to play this, and I'm just going to ask you about when you first heard this, because it is, it's famous, it's out there. Everyone seems to know it. So let's listen to Steve Jobs for a moment.
Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever, because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart even when it leads you off the well-worn path, and that will make all the difference.
So do you know where your dots were, Paul?
There's, I think Steve really epitomizes the struggle of humanity. We have, since the dawn of humanity, we've always wanted to know what the future holds. And that's what Steve was talking about. He saw a bright future, but he didn't know what those dots were going to look like. I totally get that. But that's what all these, anytime there's a political thing going on, there's people that'll trying to give their ideas of what will happen, what can happen. Same with the financial world, what will happen, what can happen. And they're trying to put all these dots together. It's not until afterwards that all these brilliant people come out. See, that's the way that things, that led up to this point. And that's, seeing the future is so hard because it's so not lived yet. So we can't know what the future holds. We can't know whether we're going to fail or not. And I think that it is the looking back that we go, okay, that's why I did this. That's what led me to here. It was because this person said this to me. This was because of this example here that I was able to go and make this decision. And so, yeah, I can see those dots. I can see those dots now very clearly. Hindsight, as they say, is 20/20, and it becomes much clearer to myself, selectively clear to myself as to why I've become who I am and what I'm doing now. So yeah, absolutely, it makes a lot of sense.
So one of my theories on all this is that if you do spend time joining up your dots and looking back and seeing those stepping stones that lead you to this point, then you've got a very good chance of building a marvelous future, because you've already seen the path. You've already seen the things that you could do well, you enjoyed, that you could take forward, the things that play to your own strengths. Now, you've got to this point now that you've got 3 or 4 things going on at once, and you're building. Just the fact that a chap like me in the United Kingdom listen to you on a daily basis, you're sending out vibes across the world. Can you see now where your path is going to go in the next year, 2 years, 3 years? I know you've got a new podcast and that, but can you see the sort of level of success that you're going to achieve, or is it still through sort of frosted glass? You can just sort of vaguely see a shape of where you want to go.
Well, yeah, that's the problem of looking into the future. We're not entirely sure what it's going to do, but that's not to say that we shouldn't have goals. I mean, it's the same with, say, if I'm going to drive from my town that I live in right now, Vancouver, Washington. I wanted to drive to Vancouver, British Columbia, which is a good 500-600 miles away. Obviously, I'm not going to be there the second I think about it. I'm going to have a destination in mind. I'm going to start driving on what we call here the I-5, which is the main freeway. It goes north to south from the Canadian border all the way down to the Mexican border. But I'm going to get on that road, and if I drive north, if I drive in this direction, I'm more than likely to end up in Vancouver, BC. So yeah, absolutely. I kind of do have that idea of where I would like to be, and I'm driving towards it. The problem with ourselves right now is that we are going towards the dream, but don't have the map or the GPS to get us there. We have the ideas of what can and can't get us there, and so we do use those tools to make sure we're going in the right direction and correct path. The compass would be the best way to say. We don't have a map, we have a compass. And the compass is supposed to help us to kind of go in the right direction. But there's times when we have to veer off. We've got to avoid a pothole there, or figure out a way to get across this river there. And so, yeah, I do have the vision, but I know I'm going there with the compass, not with the road map. So yeah, I can see that. Now, as I go further, as I keep making these new steps, I think I'm going to be looking back saying, I see that one did work. I think now, for instance, the launching of the Potter's Cast, I've got a better vision for that than I would had I not done Doubt the Doubts, and I'm going to continue doing Doubt the Doubts, but I have a much better vision of how to launch it, how to interview, what type of things to put on the website, a better way to be able to monetize it, and to give people enough resources to be able to want to spend their money on my dreams. So yeah, I think that I do have a better idea of what those dots ought to be look like, those landmarks, I would say, that I'm looking for in the future. And hopefully my compass will get me there safely. So that's kind of how I look at the futures. I've got a compass, not a roadmap, and I've got ideas based upon my success of the past that's going to help to make this more successful. So yes.
Because I see you, Paul, with all the things going on. I see you with a machete, and you're cutting down trees, you're cutting down grass, and you're making a path which hopefully you're going to look over your shoulder and you're going to see 2 or 3, 4, 5 people following you.
Oh,
and
dude.
It's your inspiration on your podcast and in your journey, which it's got to have an effect on people, hasn't it? It's got to have the effect. And do you ever have those followers where you think to yourself, oh, if I could only just get that one person, I could really help them along the line? Do you ever have people like that just come into your life and they kind of float past you and you think, God, I missed an opportunity there?
Oh, okay, yeah. There have been many friends that I feel like I've lost the ability to be the biggest impact that I can be. But isn't that what life's all about, David? Isn't that what we're supposed to be doing? Is helping to change people's lives for the better? I mean, that's what it means by an impact. It's not just, there's 2 types of impacts. You can make an impact with a bus, or you can make an impact with your love. And I think that the love impact is what changes people. It's the thing that makes all the difference in the world. And I long to, when it's all said and done, for someone to say, my life is better because of Paul. And it's one of the things that's such an, you don't know how deeply that touches me. One of the things that I say at the end of my show, and I'm serious about it, I always say to my guests, I say, hey, you've made our lives better, so we raise our cups to you. And then I say lots of love to you. The lots of love to you part is a new thing from probably from my third recurrence, that I realize the value of people are so utterly precious. And I think that I have found that to be more and more true as I've gone down this journey of cancer, that I could not have survived this if it weren't for the incredible love and support of incredible friends, incredible family, and people that I don't even know. One quick story, David. One quick story. At Christmas time, one of our family traditions here is that I go and I purchase a honey baked ham. And honey baked ham is just a name brand that's here in the U.S. I don't know if it's anywhere else in the world, but honey baked ham is like, Yeah, oh, we just love it. It's a great Christmas tradition. It's an expensive tradition though. It's $50 for the ham, but it's a tradition, and so I didn't want to sell the family short, this year. So I kind of gathered up a little bit of money, and I went to buy our ham for the year. It was like 2 or 3 days before Christmas, and as I get to the ham place, Honey Baked Ham kiosk at our local mall here, there's a lady that is right in front of me, and we started up a little conversation, and I mentioned to her that, hey, have you got this coupon? There's a coupon that you can use to get a discount, because coupons mattered to me, because I was buying a ham I couldn't afford, and I offered this lady, it was on my iPhone. I said, would you like to use my coupon? And she said, oh no, I've got a gift card. So, and I said, okay, great. So she's in the process of ordering her ham, and I hear her say something like she's going to get this ham for Christmas, then she's come back for getting a honey baked turkey later on, or a turkey loaf that they sell also, time for the New Year's. And so that was it. But anyhow, when she made her purchase, she turned to me and she said, here, Paul, or she didn't say, here, Paul, she didn't know me. She says, here, take the rest of my card. And she handed me her gift card. It was just like one of the little credit cards that had some money on it. And I was like, wow, well, thank you. I didn't know what to think. I just said, thank you. I ordered my ham. When they slid the card, it was for like $23 was on there. I was standing there in the honey baked ham aisles, and I started to cry. I mean, not I wasn't sobbing like a little baby, but tears welled up my eyes. I couldn't believe that I was so cared for by complete. She had no idea that I was short $20, to be able to pay for this ham. So I made my purchase. I ran out the door. I caught up to her, and I told her, I said, ma'am, you don't know what this meant to me. I'm a cancer patient right now, and I've been out of work because I can't work physically. I couldn't work. And I just want you to know how much that little gesture of yours meant to me and my family. And she started to cry. She said, can I have a hug? So we hugged each other, two complete strangers. She hugged me, I hugged her. She went her way, I went my way. But my life was made better because of a complete stranger. So when I say that this last year I could not have survived without the love of family, friends, and stranger, I sincerely mean that. So the impact of people has become more and more precious to me, and I long to be able to make an impact in people's lives. For if this is my last year, which I don't think that that's the case right now, but if this is the last year, I want their lives to be better because I've been able to be there for them somehow. I long for that. Brilliant question on your part, David. It's very powerful.
That has left me lost for words, quite frankly, Paul. It seemed to me, without getting too sort of spiritual, that moment, your kind of angel came down and just said, hey, guy, it's going to be all right. There's people looking out for you.
Exactly. I have a very strong commitment in my walk with God. I'm a Christian, and I believe deeply in my faith, and to me, there's no question in my mind that what you described was exactly those scenarios, because there are plenty of other times when the days are dark and I don't feel that. I don't feel those things, but the love and the support of friends and family and my God, I feel like whether I'm here to take care of my family, which is my biggest concern, it's not whether I live or die, because that's going to happen to all of us, right? There's no escaping. I read recently the study that the death ratio is still 1 to 1. We're not getting out of this world alive, so that's inevitable.
Unless you're
I'm a relatively young guy. Yes. Yes. But my bigger concern is not necessarily that, oh my goodness, my life is in jeopardy. My biggest concern is my wife and my children. That's my biggest concern, is making sure that they're provided for. So that's and that I've made the biggest impact. I love to be able to be there for my son, for his journey through adulthood, and for my daughter through her journey through adulthood. That's been something that I've personally have lacked. I haven't had a dad that was all that has been all that involved in my life. And there's been times when I've needed a little bit of extra insights and into what a good decision would be, and there wasn't dad to turn to. So I've compensated, and I've had other great mentors and other men in that I've been able to men and women that I've been able to get advice from and direction from that has been very helpful. But I always felt that emptiness, and so I want that for my son and my daughter. I want to be the dad that they could call when they have time. Now, if that's not able to happen, that's out of my control. But it's looking more hopeful. So I do feel that there is that providence that has been watching over us. Yes.
Well, I certainly think so too. And bringing us to the end of the show, normally what I would do is play a theme tune called Sermon on the Mic when I hand over the presenting duties over to you and you give some advice to your younger self. But I'm not going to do that today, Paul. What I'd like to do is just take it in a slightly different direction. And when the theme tune finishes, I'm going to step back, let you speak, and give advice to your children on any subject you want. Because I can sense, well, I don't even have to sense, there is a deep love for your children, which maybe on a daily basis you don't get a chance to share. Most of us don't. We sort of get into life and life happens and we're busy and we're doing things. So I'm just going to let the music play, step away, and I'm going to leave it up to you to say a few things to your kids.
Here we go with the best bit of the show, the sermon on the mic. The sermon on the mic.
Well, that is a poignant thing to ask me to do. So thank you for the opportunity then. One of the things that I would long for my kids to know is I want you to not worry about living for the American dream, but rather live for your personal dream. The chances of finding happiness in someone else's definition is not going to be there for you. The definition of the way you're going to find happiness is be able to find it in a good relationship with the people around you. Love people the way you'd want to be loved. Love yourself the way you want people to love you. Love your God the way that you would want other people to love God. And be faithful. Be faithful with getting your tasks done. You'll be amazed at the things you can accomplish just by simply getting the work done. You have the ability to change the world in a powerful way. It doesn't have to be a massive Gandhian type of a change, a Mother Teresian type of a change, but who knows, that might be your scenario. But you can make a huge impact in your future spouse's life, in your future children's life, just by being an upright, good, and honest person. So go for it, live your dreams, live with honor, and live with passion.
Paul, it's been an absolute honor to have you on the show tonight. Hopefully it hasn't been too draining on you. It touched emotions that I wasn't expecting, to be honest, as I went into it. But you have been so generous, open, that I just wish you the best personally, health-wise, obviously, and for you and your family to just go on and flourish for as long as you want it to be, because the goodness that you're putting out in the world and the goodness that you're trying to present to your family and yourself, it has to pay back. It has to pay back big time. And I'd like to think that in another 5 years' time, 10 years' time, we can have you back on the show and we can see where your life's gone, how the potter's cast has taken on to become the number one in Potter's podcasts. I don't know if there's even a theme there. I've got no idea at all. But of course, the door is always open to return and to continue joining up those dots, because my belief is by joining up those dots, it's the only way to build our future. Paul Blais, thank you very much.
Hey, lots of love to you, David. Thank you.
David doesn't want you to become a faded version of the brilliant self you were once to become. So he's put together an amazing guide for you called the 8 Pieces of Advice That Every Successful Entrepreneur Practices, including the 2 that changed his life. Head over to joinupdots.com to download this amazing guide for free, and we'll see you tomorrow on Join Up Dots.